great to see you again. We had a chance to chat when you were running for president. Now you're out in D.C. serving as Transportation Secretary. What is life like for you there in the nation's capital, and what has surprised you the most about the journey along the way?
Well, Indiana still feels like home to me, but things are going well here in Washington. We're working hard to deliver an American Rescue Plan that's going to lift millions of Americans out of poverty and help us beat COVID. And it's an example of the kind of action that we came here to do. Being able every single day, every single hour to be taking up a new compelling area of policy in terms of what's going on in the administration, what we can do by way of transportation. It's incredibly energizing, and I'm just grateful to be part of this administration and have this opportunity to serve.
Let's talk about the American Rescue Plan. You've been doing interviews like these, touting this legislation and what you feel it will mean to this country. How do you respond to those who think it's too much money, or to those who say only a small portion of the bill is going to items specifically related to the pandemic?
Well, first of all, we're in a crisis of historic proportions, and I think there's much more danger in doing too little than there is in doing too much. And there are a lot of things that maybe it's not quite obvious unless you think about it for a second, how they're related to COVID, but they are. I'll give you a simple example, and it's from my own area of transportation. We got a lot of support in here for local transit agencies that are absolutely vital, especially for frontline workers who depend on them to get to work. Now, the funding is required because a lot of these agencies lost revenue during the lockdowns that came with COVID. If those agencies have to cut routes and lay off workers, that's going to make it that much harder for people to get shots. At the end of the day, this is about getting checks to families, shots in arms, and getting our economy back on its feet. We have a great opportunity here, but if we do too little, we could miss that opportunity, and we'll be regretting it for a generation.
In terms of transportation, this stimulus money obviously going out to a number of Americans will certainly help, but in terms of other costs, you have things like gas prices on the rise again now. It's possible airfare could go back up accordingly one day, as well as there's more demand for people wanting to get out and travel after the pandemic. Do you think that stimulus money will be enough to help offset some of those costs?
Well, it's certainly going to make a difference for so many American families who really will benefit from those $1,400 checks that make it possible to get back up and running quickly. Look, a lot of folks have seen reduced hours. Many have lost their jobs outright. Others still have their jobs, but are facing a real kind of cloud on the horizon in terms of some of the things that this crisis has thrown at us. The American Rescue Plan is about getting through that. And then, remember, it's part one of a two-step process. Step two is recovery, where we can take on challenges that aren't just about getting through this year. They're about making sure America can compete and win for a generation to come. And I'm excited to work on that as soon as we've been able to finish the job on this rescue plan that Americans overwhelmingly want to see done.
What else are you hoping to accomplish in office? What else do you hope Congress is able to accomplish in terms of infrastructure and other transportation-related expenditures? And what kind of impact might that have in a state like Indiana?
Well, it starts with the basics. You know, a place like Indiana, this is pothole season as the thaw gets underway, and we know the conditions of our roads and our bridges, not just back home in Indiana, but everywhere around the country, needs a lot of work. The engineers give it a D+ report card overall when it comes to the condition of our infrastructure. So we've got to deal with that backlog, that maintenance need. It's not very glamorous, but it's incredibly important. But we can also think about some exciting things that are coming in the future. I'll give you just one example: electric vehicles, something that our part of the country in the Midwest is a big part of economically as American automakers gear up to deliver those vehicles of the future. It's also important for climate. It's important for jobs. One of the things we got to do, though, is make sure we have enough charging stations as a country to support that new technology. Those are just a couple examples of the things that we have a chance to deliver with a visionary infrastructure package. And I got to tell you, I'm talking to Republican and Democratic senators and House members all the time, and there is bipartisan energy to get something done here.
What do you miss most about Indiana besides filling potholes, of course?
Well, of course, I miss home. I miss being able to take the dogs for a walk around the neighborhood, being able to go to at least pre-COVID, the restaurants and ball games. But I'll be making sure to get back home from time to time and take advantage of that, especially as life starts returning to, if not the old normal, then hopefully a next normal that's going to be better than ever.
We're all looking forward to that for sure. Secretary Pete Buttigieg, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you again.
Great to be with you. Thanks.